Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. We actually had an extra long marathon session today. It was about an hour and a half long. We had a ton of stuff to cover. Thursdays, of course, is the baby powder report. Let's just make sure YouTube's working here. Yep. That's good. And also too, the site right now still under construction to a certain degree, so hopefully dashboard gets back up and running pretty soon so we can start the videos there. But long and short of it here is I like to put together a nice little chart deck just to quickly walk through what we're sort of seeing in the market here today. Probably, it's usually a good idea to start with what is the hegemony, I guess, proxy in the market for the past 10, 20 years doing. US dollar index sort of is our starting point. And as you can see, dollar index is moving higher today. We talked a little bit about, empire fractal tops, potential haramis coming in. We did break the bottom of the harami though, so I was kind of thinking, well, maybe we're going to push lower. And the market said, none of that talk. Let's push back up top. Of course, we had talked at length with the community about, and actually I just got to remember what the hell the damn symbol is. I think it's 6E now. Euro makes up a big chunk of this US dollar index. It's coming off a whack today. You can even see double tops, if I change it to like a clothesline. Big old M's. So nothing's really changed out of Eurozone. Economically, they're still pretty malaisey. And I think it's a good message that everybody should be aware of. I found in my 30 years career, anytime a new Fed governor, a central bank governor, whatever the hell you want to call it, is appointed, the old person leaves, the market loves to test the resolve of that new governor. So I got a sneaky suspicion that they are going to test Miss Lagarde here very hard over the coming weeks, months, and maybe even years going forward on the euro. And also, too, if we just sort of think about horizontal support and resistance, you can see how old W's now are turning into new M's. So, big W here, big M here, euro. This is going to be messy as hell going forward. Certainly no trades. Going back to that US dollar index, probably same sort of thing. They kind of head faked the market here by just a couple ticks. The low there was 14. This low here was, this low here is 11. This previous low here was 14. So by 3 ticks, little head fake, and then just ratchet it back up. And then also notice too on the daily charts, there's this cheeky little gap right back up at the top there. So I got a sneaky suspicion. I was thinking that we were going to come down and fill in this gap, but it looks like if you were going to define what's the trading range of the US dollar, this gap right here is your top, this gap right here is your bottom, and there is your playground, pretty wide. So that's kind of what I'm seeing in currency land right now. The market was freaking out a little bit there on the collapse of the US dollar, but we've had some econs that have come out recently that are showing on a relative basis, U.S. economy actually looks like it's okay. They can justify the interest rate premium, so people are coming back on the buy side. I don't think that we're in sort of like a face rip up or face rip down. I think now the U.S. dollar is parked in a range. So in a weird sort of way, actually, I think that actually helps risk on. A little bit of the uncertainty about Fed policy going forward. Politically, things seem to be sort of stabilizing a little bit in the U.S. The executive branch is under scrutiny right now, so obviously new policies and stuff are kind of on the back burner. We're heading into an election year, so we've got that ahead of us. It was interesting, the socialist side of the argument, Senator Warren. She's actually running into a lot of traffic. She wants to soak the rich tax premium. And people like Bill Gates are coming out and going, okay, well, I'm more than happy to talk to you, and I'm more than happy to pay my fair share in taxes. But, let's be realistic about this. And she was even like, all right, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to you. So that might be a really interesting sort of debate to watch going forward in U.S. politics. And, if she can actually bring people like Gates on her side, you might find that political push might gain some traction. Well, we'll see how that goes. We've been talking about this recently. Stock market is right up against top end of its range, but man, it's got a head of steam behind it. And also, too, remember that end of October, beginning of November, ironically enough, this was supposed to be our down cycle, and we're heading into an up cycle right now. So, these kind of proxies, oil, stocks, they're pressing higher here. The one interesting disconnect about this is what is Bitcoin doing? When we look at the risk on, risk off assets here today, I think you can clear, Bitcoin aside, I think you can clearly see the message is risk is on and risk off is off. And unfortunately for the poor old gold bugs, risk off, they're just getting absolutely killed here today. What was really cool, and as I've sort of pointed out recently, is my principal partner, Julian, is, he's taken the past few years working with me, and I think he's really developed into a very good trader. He was saying, of course, is that he was shorting gold, and he actually took some more profits on shorts into this dump this morning. But, the simple message for the public is, what are you supposed to be thinking if you ever see the market smiling at you? Yesterday, I had sort of pointed out that we had a potential inside bar developing here. And, we might actually have some cause to get bullish if we accepted back above this trend line, the inside bar, start Wing, that kind of idea. But you can see today they just went, nope, see you later. This M now is confirmed. It's a funny M because, of course, that's just a shooting star candle. But now what I see, which really scares me for the gold bugs, is this huge M now is confirmed with the loss of this 1465 level this morning. Today's low there, 1461.40. That's not good. And also, too, remember we talked about this the other day, huge downside volume coming in on gold on this bar, and now we're actually going to outdo that today, even more rampant selling. So very, very dangerous for the gold bugs these days. And on balance, all of the risk-off proxies are all basically moving in unison. I have to say, Kavarkanator, Kevin, my co-host here, my director, I think probably is a director-producer, he says he's still long some oil here. I actually went and bought a few oil stocks here recently, buy when it snows, sell when it goes, kind of thinking for my registered plans and stuff. I like oil in here. Great to see that Kevin's being vindicated with more pushes higher here in the oil. And then, of course, like we said, where the hell is the damn top in the stock market? It's not here yet. And I distinctly remember yesterday saying, yes, we were up against channel tops here, but this price action is not a sell signal. So it's still a little bit early for me to actually think about shorting anything like here, but this is ridiculous. And unfortunately, sometimes markets get into these kind of market states where, we know because of price gap theory that all of this crap, especially down to that 295 level that we talked about at length, all of this at some point will have to be filled in. It's just a question of when. But it's not today, that's for sure. Now, the one disconnect of all of this, before we move on, I do have some puts as insurance in the stock market, but keep in mind, I have a very big long portfolio in the stock market. And, here's a really good example of weekly W's working their magic. Back in the spring, we actually went and bought some call options on this thing. So we got a pretty heavily long this stock, either through owning the stock or options. And a really good illustration of weekly W's just rocking and rolling. And we're starting to come into some really interesting levels on CenturyLink here. And by the, you might see tweets banging out doubles on the options and all that kind of stuff soon. And then here was one of these energy stocks, weekly W's. Again, hopefully you can see that weekly W. It's a little harder to see. But nonetheless, I don't have a problem going in and buying that, and I did. And, this trade's working nicely for me now. So, I've got long proxies on in the stock market. A whole bunch of different names are all moving up in unison as this market's moving higher. But I am actually looking to be taking profits on these rallies in names like CenturyLink. Now, let's head on over to crypto and the corn. I do think that something sort of pretty significant happened in the marketplace today that I don't know whether the crypto community is paying too close attention. But we finally had our first official sort of grown-up institutional play come in on the IPO side in the stock market. And that's this, what's it called? Silver Quartz? What the hell's the damn name? I think I even tweeted it out here. These guys here, Silvergate, they are a bank in Southern California. And this is actually how I want to participate in crypto for this next growth cycle. And we spent a lot of time in the daily brief today going through. I'm building my universe of crypto-related stocks and just hunting W's, and when I get opportunities to sell halves on doubles and just get free positions going forward, I do that. So some of these names I've got free positions on, like this iMining. Others, I'm just simply, I did take a long shot off of this Riot, but got stopped out. Big friggin' deal. It's just another trade, but I'm trying to build positions off of these and trying to sneak in off of W's and trying to sell halves on W's or halves on doubles and all that and build free positions. So, but notice most of these names, they're relatively small. Mining firms, a little bit of controversy around directors. Tim Draper's play in the luxury retail blockchain space. Another miner. Over here we've got, big retail box names that are in the space. Novogratz proxy in the space. The names go on and on and on. And now I think we can actually add an actual institutional proxy in this space, this Silvergate. I do think, to a certain degree, how this actually finishes, and you IPO, boom, there it is out of the gate, big honk and do nothing. But I do think that actually how this thing behaves through the day is going to be a really interesting sort of proxy on what Wall Street thinks of crypto. And you can see, if we drill down to say like a 10-minute chart, you can see it's all over the place here this morning. And I'd actually like to see this thing finish out on an uptick. If it finishes out on an uptick, then it tells me that Wall Street is not, like if this thing IPOs and they just dump it hard, then it means that Wall Street doesn't believe in crypto and blockchain and all that, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to be watching this, and of course I'll be adding it because they're a bank that specifically caters to the crypto marketplace, and they're out of Southern California, and I think it's going to be an interesting proxy. So what I was sort of suggesting in the lounge today, like I said, there was a bit of a disconnect with sort of risk on, risk off. And, if the trends of late had basically followed what I've been seeing, I would have expected Bitcoin to rally here. Why maybe is one reason why it didn't. And I'm just wondering whether that IPO is actually sort of overhanging the market. And, if anything, I'm almost thinking that this is almost like, especially if I look at Bitcoin, I think I was tweeting this out, but I'm not sure. But, we started to see signs of failure out of our studies, our price momentum studies, suggesting down. And the question really was, how bad was bad going to get? Of course, I've talked lots about the fact that I'm building a long position against these lows. And if we lose these lows, I'm just going to simply walk away. No big deal. Next bus in 10 minutes, blah, blah, blah. But, we were ratcheting our way higher. Then we started failing. And so last night, I even was like, in the TRI lounge, we were like, oh boy, let's see what happens here. We were starting to get some serious failure levels. Market did come down. Scenario one, nice polite bull market pullback against support. Nothing more than just a pullback in a bull market. That scenario is off the table now. We're now in sort of scenario two, 50% of the megaphone range. Small AB equals the CDs, basically price bumping up against these key lows, and reload zone off of this bigger range. That's what's going on right now. You can see on a short-term momentum basis, we finally put in a W. So I think we can make the argument that this bear move is now stopped. And the question now is, can the market go and break these existing downtrend lines? This is pretty steep right here. So if anything, what I'm sort of suggesting is I like the idea of dead cat bounces against this uptrend line on the other side. If we can accept, if we M out and fail here, then that means scenario two is off the table, and technically we have to come back down and probably do this AB equals CD scenario three, because remember, this low has actually been broken. So technically the purple AB equals CD is active and alive. And then finally, if all hell breaks loose, that IPO on Wall Street goes horribly, get some sort of FUD come into the market, and, all of this sort of recent bullish sentiment has been wiped away, then I think we have to trade back down to the bottom of this megaphone, and that will basically be this bullish thesis here is off the table. And just an FYI, thought it was interesting, Julian's report today, he actually reported that he took a short off of this setup here as sort of a hedge because he uses his portfolio valued in Bitcoin and he didn't want to see his portfolio go down. So I can completely understand. Basically, reload zones, bottom ends of ranges, potential bots, front-running bots. I can understand the long argument. At the same time, too, reload zone fails, mountain mans, huge bearish divergence. I can completely understand the range trader short off of the top here. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea what I'm seeing here over the in the corn here over the short term. Hopefully, hope we can hold this sort of mid megaphone level and start working our way back up, for the bulls. But just an FYI on that note. I have put about half of my desired trade on, just slowly adding to it over time. And we had one cavalry unit fill down here. I do have a second cavalry unit, the other half of that guy working down here. I do have AB equals CDs working on OKCoin. So believe it or not, actually, I am looking for dumps down into bottom ends of ranges here. And if that does happen, I will be adding to my long trade. So just an FYI if you are following along. Okay, that about summarizes everything I wanted to talk about in Bitcoin and bigger crypto. Probably just leave off this video. I think it's not a bad idea to keep an eye on BNB. As sort of a proxy in the altcoin space. I think, you've got a nice little trading range there established. If we lose this and start emming out and failing, my hunch is we probably got to come back down, do reload zones, all that kind of talk. If we drill down to the lower time frames, you can see that we came up against those highs and emmed out, and see you later. So we'll see how this goes. I don't necessarily have a breakdown in BNB just yet, but I think at best what we just simply say is we're in a trading range. And if we're really lucky, maybe we put in one low, two lows. I don't know whether I would consider this a low yet or not. Probably this is going to be two lows, three lows. We might actually bought out here and head higher. Now, one name I like, and keep in mind we do give you some ideas to chew on. So this is nothing more than an idea to chew on. I don't know whether people took advantage of the Doge setup, but you can see now it's Wing and starting to move away from reload zones. I don't know whether you took advantage of Kavarkanator's sick-ass reload zone setup here, but you can see it's moved substantially away from reload zones. I'm always interested in new names. Of course, we're watching Decred. It's just banging up against top end of its range. One name that I'm really interested in, again, hopefully everybody looks at this chart and goes, okay, well, it makes sense. Good old Ubik, Alex Sturck's coin, in reload zones relative to Bitcoin. Can it double bottom here? Well, it definitely could. And if anything, let's watch trend line breakouts. See if we can get W's on other sides of trend lines, those kind of thing. But really interesting location here on Ubik. And, just looking at it versus US dollars, you can see that it's just basically down right at the bottom end of a trading range. We might get a nice little rally out of this thing here if we can W out. One for you to definitely chew on. And I think there's some money to be made on this. Even if we just get, these are simple charts. But even if we just get a nice 50% bounce, that's 20 cents. We're sitting down here under 10, right? Sitting at 8 right now. There might be a good chance to double your money on that little bad boy. So keep an eye on him. There's another name for you to chew on. Do your own due diligence, not financial advice. Just telling you what I'm thinking about I might do with my money. All right, everybody, have yourselves a great day. Thank you for all the wonderful, positive comments. And I appreciate the constructive criticism, we'll call it. But I'm just trying my best, and hopefully something I've said here today enlightens you. All right, have yourselves a great day. All the best, and bye for now.